It was a very harrowing time. I was, cried almost every hour that we were there. We were freezing and starving, and just really terrified the whole time.
When she was 20 years old, professional rock climber Beth Rodden was kidnapped and held hostage. She was on a trip to the other side of the world with her boyfriend and a few other people when it happened.
We were on a climbing expedition to Kyrgyzstan, and about 2 weeks into our trip, we were shot at while we were on a wall. We went down, and it was apparent that, we were being taken hostage.
Did they hurt you?
No, they never hurt us.
And why did they hold you hostage?
We still don't know. We didn't speak their language, and they didn't speak English. So anything that we got across was, through hand gestures. But we can only guess that running across, 4 Americans was probably a good opportunity for them. I was thinking everything. I was thinking about my family. I was thinking about food. I was thinking about warmth. I was thinking about what was happening. How long were we going to be there? It was, a constant blender of emotions. We would try and sleep while we could. We would, again, talk about our families. We would talk about food. We would talk about just anything to kind of pass the time. So that's, we were just huddled up there and tried to get our minds on more comforting things.
The ordeal went on for 6 agonizing days.
What I think is so brave is how you were able to escape.
We were supposed to meet one of our other captors at the top of this ridge, and for climbers it was a quite easy thing to get up. It was kind of like walking on a sidewalk, but for somebody who wasn't comfortable with climbing, he'd ask us to help push his foot up or grab his hand. And so Tommy went up and was able to push him off at the top of the ridge, and we were able to run to safety after that.
And where did you get help?
The two friends of ours that were there with us, John and Jason, they had gone on this really big trek earlier in the trip, and they knew there was this small ramshackle military outpost quite a ways down the valley. And so we ran down there, and the Kyrgyzstan military was in that outpost. So we went from, that military base to a couple other ones, and eventually made it to the American embassy in the capital of Kyrgyzstan.
After such a harrowing ordeal, it took a year before she climbed again. This one in 2019 on one of the world's most famous mountains, Yosemite National Park's El Capitan in California. Beth recounts her ordeal in her recently published memoir, A Light Through the Cracks.
There was definitely a lot of times where, I didn't want to write about it a certain day. I didn't want to think about it a certain time of day or whatnot. It's not something that I feel like is an easy memory to access at any point. I had a pretty traumatic experience when I was 20, and so reliving and writing about a kidnapping was hard. It also provided an opportunity for me to really dive into therapy and work through a lot of things.
Are you ever afraid being a mom and going on some of these adventurous climbs?
Yeah, I feel like I have fear every time I climb, and I feel like my type of climbing has changed a lot in the past 15 years, 10 years due to injuries and time constraints. But at some point, maybe I'll go and do bigger climbs again.
And she still dreams of more.
More climbs in Yosemite, and there's a place in France that we go to every year. So I feel like in France and in Yosemite, I could spend the rest of my climbing days there and be totally happy and totally challenged.
I'm Leigh Scheps for Inside Edition Digital.